The large room was silent except for the soft hum of air recyclers. Hundreds of beings from across the galaxy sat in curved rows, their eyes fixed on the creature standing at the center. Kethver stood on 4 legs, his gray shell cracked and scarred from battle. His compound eyes, once bright purple, now looked dull and tired. The Xanthari warrior had asked to speak to the Galactic Council, and no one knew why. The council leader, a tall blue-skinned Vorthan, leaned forward. Kethver of the Xanthari Empire, you have requested this emergency session. The council will hear your words. Kethver's mandibles clicked nervously. He had fought in 100 battles across 50 worlds. He had never been afraid to speak before, but today was different. Today he had to tell them about the humans. Honored Council, Kethver began, his voice rough and strained. I stand before you as a survivor of the Terran Contact War. I have seen things that will haunt me until my final molt. I have witnessed the humans fight, and I must warn you all. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The Terran Contact War had ended 6 months ago? Most of the galaxy knew only that the mighty Xanthari Empire had tried to conquer a small species called humans and somehow failed. The details had been kept secret. Tell us what happened, the council leader said. Kethver closed his eyes for a moment, remembering. It was supposed to be simple. The humans had just developed faster-than-light travel. They had a few colonies on nearby worlds. Our scouts reported they were weak, primitive. Their weapons were basic, their ships were small. We thought we could conquer them in a few days. He paused, his claws scraping against the metal floor. We were wrong. The chamber grew quieter. Every being present had heard rumors, but no one knew the truth. I was part of the 3rd Assault Fleet, Kethver continued. We attacked their mining colony first. New Montana, they called it. It was a small world with maybe 10,000 humans. We brought 3 full battalions, 90,000 warriors. We had plasma cannons, force shields, hover tanks. They had mining equipment and old chemical weapons. The alien warrior's voice grew smaller. We should have won in an hour. What happened? Asked a delegate from the back of the room. The humans fought like nothing we had ever seen. When we landed, they were ready. They had turned their entire colony into a trap. Every building, every tunnel, every piece of equipment was a weapon, waiting to be used. Kethver began pacing, his 4 legs moving in an agitated pattern. Their leader was a human named Jake Morrison. He was their colony commander, not even a real soldier. But he organized their defense like he had been planning it for years. The Xanthari warrior stopped walking and faced the council. On the first day, we lost 500 warriors. 500 of the galaxy's best soldiers, killed by humans using farming tools and rock-cutting lasers. They had taken their mining charges and turned them into bombs. They used their earth-moving machines as battle vehicles. Surely your superior numbers and technology won in the end? Asked the council leader. We thought so too, Kethver replied. But the humans did something we did not expect. They adapted. Every day they learned new ways to fight us. They studied. Our dead warriors figured out our weaknesses. They changed their tactics constantly. He clicked his mandibles again, a sign of distress among his people. On the 2nd day, they had learned to jam our communications. On the 3rd day, they were using our own weapons against us. By the 4th day, they had figured out how to make our shields fail. The chamber was completely silent now. The Xanthari were known across the galaxy as the greatest warriors. The idea that primitive humans could learn to fight them so quickly was almost impossible to believe. Jake Morrison never slept, Kethver said quietly. For 6 days he moved through the colony, always appearing where we least expected. He would attack our supply lines, disappear, then hit us from another direction. He made every one of our victories cost us more than we could afford. What about the civilians? Asked a delegate. Surely they surrendered to protect their families? Kethver's compound eyes seemed to grow darker. That was the most terrifying part. The humans did not separate warriors from civilians. The old humans, the young humans, even their children helped fight. They carried messages, they set traps, they guided our enemies to ambush points. The humans fight as one people. He walked to the center of the chamber again. On the 5th day, Jake Morrison was badly wounded. We thought the defense would collapse. Instead, it got stronger. Every human in the colony seemed to become more dangerous. They fought harder when their leader was hurt. How did it end? The council leader asked. On the 6th day, our reinforcements arrived. Fresh troops, new equipment. We finally had enough firepower to break through their defenses. We reached the colony's main building where the last humans were hiding. Kethver paused, his whole body trembling slightly. Jake Morrison was there, barely alive. He could have surrendered. We would have taken him prisoner, treated his wounds. Instead, he looked at us and said something I will never forget. What did he say? He said, "Tell your people this is what happens when you attack humanity. Tell them we are just getting started." The alien warrior's voice broke. Then he activated the colony's fusion reactor overload. The explosion killed every human left in the colony. It also killed 3,000 of our warriors and destroyed most of our landing craft. The council chamber erupted in shocked voices. The idea that an entire population would choose death over surrender was beyond most species. Understanding. The humans did not just fight to survive, Kethver said over the noise. They fought to send a message. They wanted us to know that conquering them would cost more than we could pay. They were right. He looked around the chamber at the hundreds of faces staring at him. That was just the beginning. New Montana was their weakest colony. After that, we learned what the humans could really do. The council leader raised a hand for silence. Thank you, Kethver. We will hear more tomorrow. As the delegates filed out, many of them looked worried. If the humans had fought so hard at just one small colony, what had happened when the Zenthuri tried to attack Earth itself? Kethver remained in the chamber after everyone left, staring at the empty seats. Tomorrow he would have to tell them about the siege of Titan Base and how the humans had turned their own research station into a weapon. That would be even harder to explain. The nightmares would come again tonight, just like every night since. The war ended. In his dreams, he still heard Jake Morrison's final words, and he still saw the flash of light that had everything at New Montana. The humans had kept their promise. They were just getting started. The next day, the council chamber filled again. Kethver stood in the same spot, but he looked even more tired than before. His shell had fresh cracks that had not been there yesterday. The other delegates whispered among themselves, wondering what horrors the Zenthari warrior would share today. The council leader called for silence. Kethver, you may continue your testimony. The alien warrior's mandibles clicked slowly. After New Montana, our fleet moved to the humans' main research station. Titan Base, it was built on a moon around their gas giant. We thought it would be easier than the mining colony. He paused, his compound eyes growing dull. We were wrong again. Tell us about Titan Base, the council leader said. It was huge. Much bigger than New Montana. 50,000 humans lived there, all scientists and researchers. They had laboratories, fusion reactors, communication arrays that could reach across the galaxy. It was the center of human space science. Kethver began his nervous pacing again. Our admiral decided to surround the base with our entire fleet. 200 ships. We would starve them out. No supplies could reach them. We thought they would surrender in a few days. Did they? Asked a delegate. No, they made us come to them. The alien warrior stopped walking and faced the council. The base commander was a human named Colonel Steve Martinez. He had been a soldier before becoming a scientist. When our ships surrounded his base, he did something unexpected. He sent us a message. What did he say? He thanked us for coming. He said his people had been working on new weapons, and they needed test subjects. He invited us to attack. Shocked murmurs filled the chamber. The idea that surrounded defenders would taunt their attackers was beyond most species' understanding. We thought he was bluffing. Kethver continued. Our admiral ordered the first attack. We sent landing pods to the base's docking bays. The humans let us land. They let you land? The council leader asked. Yes, they opened their doors and let us inside. We thought they were surrendering. We were wrong. Kethfer's voice grew quieter. The base was a maze, corridors that led nowhere, doors that opened to empty space, rooms that sealed shut when we entered them. The humans had turned their entire research station into a trap. He clicked his mandibles nervously. But that was not the worst part. The humans had weapons we had never seen before. They had been studying our species for months, learning our weaknesses. They knew exactly how to hurt us. What kind of weapons? Asked the delegate from the back. Sound weapons that made our shells crack. Gas that made our nervous system shut down. Light beams that blinded our compound eyes. Every weapon was designed to kill Zenthori specifically. The chamber grew silent as the implications sank in. The humans had not just been preparing for war. They had been preparing for war against the Zenthari. The fighting inside the base lasted. For 3 days, Kethfer continued. We lost more warriors every hour. But we kept pushing forward because we had to reach the reactor core. If we could shut down their power, the base would be helpless. Did you reach it? The council leader asked. Yes, on the 3rd day we broke through their final defenses. We reached the reactor level. That is where I met Lieutenant Amy Brooks. Kethfer's whole body began shaking. She was their communications officer. Young, maybe 25 human years old. She was badly wounded, bleeding from multiple plasma burns. She could barely walk. What happened to her? She was carrying a bag of explosives. Enough to destroy the entire reactor core. She looked at us and smiled. Then she spoke in perfect Zenthari language. The delegates leaned forward, sensing something terrible was coming. She said, "My people asked me to give you a message. Earth remembers New Montana. Earth remembers every human who died there. And Earth wants you to know that we would rather die than let you have our technology." Kethfer's voice cracked. I tried to stop her. I told her we would let her live if she dropped the explosives. I promised her medical treatment. She just kept smiling. What did she do? She activated the charges. But not right away. She set a timer. 30 seconds. Long enough for us to run, she said. Long enough for us to spread the word about what humans do when they are cornered. The alien warrior sat down heavily, his legs unable to support him. I ran. We all ran. But we could not get far enough away. The explosion killed Amy Brooks and 43 other humans who had stayed behind with her. It also killed 800 of our warriors and destroyed 6 of our ships. The blast was so powerful it cracked the moon's surface. The council chamber was completely silent. The image of a dying human choosing to destroy herself and her own people's research rather than let it fall into enemy hands was beyond most species' comprehension. But that was still not the worst part, Kethfer whispered. What could be worse? The council leader asked. Before she died, Amy Brooks activated the base's communication array. She broadcast a message to every human colony in their space. The message was simple. Titan base has fallen. Remember us. Make them pay. Kethfer looked up at the council. Within hours, every human colony in the galaxy had received the message. They all knew that their greatest research station had been destroyed, that their best scientists were dead. They knew we were coming for them next. How did they react? Asked the delegate. They got angry. Not afraid, angry, and angry humans are the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. The alien warrior stood up slowly. After Titan base fell, we intercepted human communications. They were not planning to surrender. They were planning revenge. They had learned everything they could from our first attacks. They knew our tactics, our weapons, our weaknesses. What did they do with this knowledge? They shared it. Every human colony, every human ship, every human soldier got the information. In 3 days, they had created a network of resistance that spanned their entire territory. Kethfer walked to the center of the chamber. Amy Brooks died at Titan base, but her message lived on. The humans named their resistance movement after her. They called themselves Brooks Brigade. Every human fighter carried her final words into battle. What were her final words? The council leader asked. Make them pay, and they did. Oh, how they made us pay. The alien warrior's voice became barely audible. After Titan Base, we thought we had broken human morale. We thought they would be afraid. Instead, we had given them a symbol, a martyr, a reason to fight harder than ever. The siege of Titan Base lasted 1 week. The war that followed lasted 6 months. 6 months of the most brutal fighting the galaxy has ever seen. And it all started with one human woman who chose to die rather than let us win. Kethver looked around the chamber at the shocked faces. Tomorrow I will tell you about the guerrilla war, about how the humans turned their own cities into battlefields, about how they made every street, every building, every room a place where Xanthari warriors could die. As the delegates filed out, many of them looked pale. The story of Amy Brooks had shaken them. If humans were willing to sacrifice themselves and their most valuable resources rather than surrender, what would they do when they went on the attack? Kethver remained in the chamber again, staring at the empty seats. In his dreams tonight, he would see Amy Brooks smile again. He would hear her speaking perfect Xanthari as she prepared to die. He would feel the heat of the explosion that had killed so many of his comrades. The humans had kept their promise again. They had made the Xanthari pay, and they were just getting started. The third day brought a different feeling to the council chamber. The delegates sat quietly, but their faces showed fear. Word of Kethver's testimony had spread throughout the galaxy. Everyone wanted to know what the humans had done to break the mighty Xanthari Empire. Kethver entered the chamber slowly. His shell now had deep cracks running along his sides. The other delegates whispered that he was molting early, shedding his shell from stress. It was something that happened to Xanthari warriors who had seen too much horror. Council leader, Kethver began, his voice weaker than before. Today I must tell you about the occupation of Earth, about how we learned that conquering human space was not the same as conquering humans. The council leader nodded. Continue your testimony. After Titan Base fell, our fleet moved to Earth itself, the human homeworld. We had lost many ships, but we still had enough to blockade the planet. We thought the humans would surrender to save their home. Kethver's mandibles clicked rapidly. We were wrong. Again. What happened when you reached Earth? Asked the delegate. The humans were waiting for us. They had spent weeks preparing. Every city, every town, every building was ready for war. They had turned their entire planet into a battlefield. The alien warrior began pacing, his forelegs moving in jerky, nervous steps. We landed in 12 major cities. We had overwhelming numbers. Our weapons were superior. We controlled the sky. We should have won in days. But you did not? No, we learned that humans fight differently when they are protecting their home. They do not fight like soldiers. They fight like animals protecting their cubs. Kethver stopped pacing and faced the council. The resistance was led by Captain Ben Parker in the northern continent and Dr. Lisa Martinez in the southern continent. They were very different humans, but they taught us the same lesson. What lesson? That humans can turn anything into a weapon? Anything? The alien warrior's voice grew darker. Ben Parker was a former soldier, but Lisa Martinez was a medical doctor. She had never fought in a war before. But she learned quickly, too quickly. Tell us about the resistance, the council leader said. They called themselves the Underground. They had no uniforms, no ranks, no central command. They were everywhere and nowhere. They could be the old human who sold food to our soldiers, or the child who played in the streets, or the worker who cleaned our barracks. Kethver's compound eyes seemed to lose focus as he remembered. In the first week, we lost 50 warriors to poisoned food. The humans had learned to make toxins that affected only Xanthari biology. They put it in water, in food, even in the air we breathed. How did they learn to make such specific poisons? Asked the delegate. They had captured some of our dead from the earlier battles. They studied our bodies, learned how we worked, found our weaknesses. Then they made weapons designed to kill us specifically. The chamber filled with uncomfortable murmurs. The idea that humans would study alien corpses to develop biological weapons was disturbing to many species. But the poisons were not the worst part, Kethver continued. The worst part was that we never knew who was going to attack us. The humans looked harmless. They smiled at us. They seemed friendly, then they would strike. Can you give us an example? The council leader asked. There was a human child. Maybe 10 years old? She would come to our checkpoints every day, selling flowers to our soldiers. Sweet little girl with blonde hair and blue eyes. The warriors started to like her. They would give her food, small gifts. Kethver's voice became very quiet. On the 15th day, she brought flowers as usual. But hidden in the flowers were micro-explosives. When she handed them to the checkpoint commander, they exploded. The blast killed 6 warriors and the child. Herself, the council chamber fell silent. The image of a human child becoming a suicide bomber was beyond most species' ability to understand. That was when we realized we were not fighting an army. We were fighting an entire species that had decided to become weapons. What did you do? Asked a delegate. We tried to be more careful. We stopped trusting any humans. We kept them away. From our bases, our supply lines, our equipment. But it did not matter. They found other ways to hurt us. Kethver resumed his pacing. They turned their own cities into mazes. They blocked streets, collapsed buildings, flooded underground tunnels. They made it impossible for us to move around safely. They also used their technology against us. Their computers, their networks, their communication systems. Lisa Martinez had trained human technicians to hack into our equipment. They would make our weapons malfunction, our vehicles break down, our communications fail. The alien warrior stopped and looked directly at the council. But the most frightening thing was how they shared information. Every human who learned something about us would teach it to others. If one human figured out how to jam our sensors, soon every human knew how to do it. They learned from each other? Asked a delegate. More than that, they learned from us. Every time we changed our tactics, they adapted. Every time we developed new defenses, they found new ways to attack. They evolved during the war. Kethver's voice grew strained. Ben Parker became a master of what they called ghost tactics. His fighters would appear from nowhere, strike hard, and disappear before we could respond. They used sewers, abandoned buildings, even the spaces between walls and their structures. How? Did they coordinate without central command? They had a system of signals. Graffiti on walls, patterns of lights in windows, even the way they arranged garbage on the streets. They could communicate right under our noses, and we never knew. The alien warrior's shell cracked further as he spoke. Dr. Martinez was even more dangerous. She taught her people to use medical knowledge as a weapon. They would capture our wounded, study them, learn our anatomy. Then they would develop new ways to hurt us. She also trained humans to pretend to be dead. They would lie among corpses after battles, then attack when our medical teams tried to help our wounded. We lost many doctors and medics that way. What was the turning point? The council leader asked. There was no single turning point. It was like fighting fog. Every day we lost more warriors. Every day the humans got better at killing us. Every day we controlled less of the planet. Kethver sat down heavily. The humans had a saying, death by 1,000 cuts. They did not try to defeat us in one big battle. They slowly bled us to death. After 2 months of occupation, we had lost 30,000 warriors. We were losing more every day. Our supplies were running low because the humans kept attacking our supply ships. Our morale was broken because we never knew when or where the next attack would come. But the worst part was the psychological warfare. The humans would leave messages for us. Pictures of our dead comrades with human writing that we could not read. Sounds that would play in our barracks at night, keeping us awake. They made us. Afraid to sleep, afraid to eat, afraid to trust anything? The alien warrior looked around the chamber at the horrified faces. Ben Parker and Lisa Martinez never met during the war. They commanded different parts of the resistance, but they did not need to coordinate. Every human seemed to know instinctively how to fight us. How did the occupation end? Asked a delegate. It did not end. We abandoned it. After 3 months, our admiral decided we could not hold the planet. We had lost too many warriors. We had learned too much about human capabilities. We were afraid of what they might do next. Kethver stood up slowly. When we retreated to our ships, the humans did not celebrate. They just watched us go. They knew we would be back. And they were already preparing for the next time. Tomorrow I will tell you about the counterattack, about how the humans took the war to us, about how they turned from defenders into hunters. As the delegates filed out, many of them looked sick. The story of the guerrilla war had shown them a side of humanity that was both admirable and terrifying. If humans could turn their own children into weapons, what would they do when they went on the offensive? Kethver remained in the chamber, staring at his cracked shell. In his dreams tonight, he would see the human child with the flowers again. He would hear Ben Parker's ghost attacks in the darkness. He would feel the fear that had slowly consumed his entire army. The humans had kept their promise. They had made the Zenthari pay for every day of occupation, and they were just getting started. The 4th day brought a different kind of tension to the council chamber. The delegates knew they were about to hear how the humans had turned from defenders into attackers. Kethver entered the chamber walking more slowly than ever. His shell was now missing pieces, and his compound eyes had lost their color completely. Council leader, Kethver began, his voice barely above a whisper. Today I must tell you about the day we learned that humans do not just defend, they hunt. The council leader leaned forward. Tell us about the turning point. It happened 4 months after the war began. We had retreated from Earth, but we still controlled the space around their system. We thought we could blockade them, cut off their supplies, force them to surrender eventually. Kethver's mandibles clicked weakly. We were monitoring their communications when we intercepted a message. It was from Major Rick Thompson, a human engineer who had been working on their space program before the war. What did the message say? It was simple. Brooks Brigade to all human forces. The hunt begins now. Make them pay. The alien warrior sat down heavily before continuing. We did not understand what he meant. We thought it was just more human propaganda. We were wrong. We were always wrong about humans. What happened next? Asked the delegate. 3 days later, one of our communication relay stations went silent. It was a small outpost, only 50 warriors. We sent a ship to investigate. Kethver's voice grew darker. The station was still there, but everyone inside was dead. Not just dead. They had been studied. The humans had taken them apart like machines, learning how our bodies worked, how our equipment functioned. They had also stolen everything, our weapons, our computers, our ship designs, everything that could teach them about our technology. The council chamber filled with uncomfortable murmurs. The idea of humans dissecting alien corpses for information was deeply disturbing to many species. But that was not the worst part, Kethver continued. The worst part was what they left behind. A message written in our own blood on the wall. It said, Amy Brooks sends her regards. They were using your own communications equipment? The council leader asked. Yes, but not just using it. They had improved it. Made it better. Within a week, they were intercepting all our communications. They knew where every ship was, what every unit was doing, what our plans were. Kethver's shell cracked further as he spoke. Major Rick Thompson was leading a team of human engineers and scientists. They were not just stealing our technology, they were making it better. They understood our machines better than we did. How is that possible? Asked the delegate. Humans learn differently than we do. We study something until we understand it. Humans study something until they can improve it. They do not just want to use our weapons, they want to make them more deadly. The alien warrior stood up slowly. 2 weeks after the first relay station, they hit our supply depot at Kepler Station. This time, they did not just steal our supplies. They poisoned them. When our ships picked up the supplies, half our fleet got sick. But we still did not understand what was happening. We thought these were just random attacks. We did not know they were following a plan. What was the plan? The council leader asked. They were learning. Every attack taught them something new. Every captured piece of equipment gave them more knowledge. They were building up to something bigger. Kethver began pacing again, his movements jerky and uncontrolled. The big attack came 6 weeks later. Our main command ship, the Devastator, was in the outer system. It was our most powerful vessel, with the best shields and weapons in the fleet. Major Thompson and his team somehow got aboard. How did they get past your security? Asked a delegate. We still do not know. Our sensors never detected them. Our guards never saw them. They moved through our ship like ghosts. The alien warrior's voice became very quiet. They did not sabotage the ship. They did something much worse. They uploaded a virus into our computer systems. A virus? Not just any virus, a virus that learned. It studied our systems, our protocols, our command structures. Then it began to change them. Kethver stopped pacing and faced the council. The virus convinced our ship's computer that the crew were enemies. It turned our own weapons against us. It sealed blast doors, cutting off escape routes. It vented atmosphere from sections where our warriors were sleeping. But the most terrifying part was that it talked to us. It used our own communication systems to speak in perfect Zentari. It told us that Amy Brooks was not dead, that she lived on in every human computer, every human weapon, every human heart. The chamber fell silent. The idea that humans could create a thinking virus that could turn alien technology against itself was beyond most species' understanding. How many died? The council leader asked. 3,000 warriors. Half the crew of our most powerful ship. And the ship itself was not destroyed, it was captured. The virus gave control to Major Thompson and his team. They took your command ship? Yes, and they used it to attack our other vessels. Our own weapons, fired by humans, destroyed 6 more ships before we could stop them. Kethver's voice cracked. But that was still not the worst part. The worst part was what Major Thompson did next. What did he do? He sent a message to our entire fleet. He spoke in perfect Zentari, wearing our admiral's uniform, standing on the bridge of our own command ship. He told us that the humans were no longer just defending themselves. He said, "We have learned everything we need to know about you. We know your weaknesses, your fears, your tactics. We have taken your weapons and made them better. We have turned your own technology against you. And now we are coming for you." The alien warrior sat down again, his legs unable to support him. Then he did something that still gives me nightmares. He opened a channel to Amy Brooks' final message from Titan Base. Her voice filled every ship in our fleet. "Make them pay," she said. And Major Thompson added, "We are ready to pay them back." "What happened to the captured ship?" asked the delegate. "It vanished, just disappeared from our sensors. But we knew it was still out there, somewhere, with humans who knew all our secrets." Kethver looked around the chamber at the frightened faces. That was the turning point. After that, we were not the hunters anymore, we were the hunted. The humans had learned our language, our tactics, our technology. They had turned our own weapons against us. And they had shown us that they could strike anywhere, anytime, without warning. Our admiral called for reinforcements. More ships, more warriors, more weapons, but it was too late. The humans had everything they needed to fight us on equal terms, and they were angry, so very angry. Kethver's voice became barely audible. Major Thompson's team had started something that could not be stopped. They had shown other humans how to fight us in space, how to use our own technology against us, how to turn from defenders into predators. The next month was the beginning of the end. The humans stopped running from us. They started hunting us. Tomorrow I will tell you about the counterattack, about how the humans took the war to our home systems, about how they made us understand what terror truly means. As the delegates filed out, many of them looked pale and worried. The story of Major Thompson's team had shown them that humans could not only adapt to alien technology, but could improve it and turn it against its creators. Kethver remained in the chamber, staring at his broken shell. In his dreams tonight, he would hear Amy Brooks' voice again, echoing through the fleet. He would see Major Thompson wearing a Xanthari uniform, speaking perfect Xanthari while standing on the bridge of their captured ship. The humans had kept their promise once again. They had learned everything they needed to know about their enemies, and they were just getting started. The fifth day brought an atmosphere of dread to the council chamber. Word had spread across the galaxy that Kethver was describing humanity's counterattack. Many delegates had heard rumors, but no one knew the full truth. Kethver entered the chamber barely able to walk. His shell was now held together with medical tape, and his compound eyes were almost completely white. "Council leader," Kethver whispered, his voice so weak that the chamber had to activate sound amplifiers. "Today I must tell you about the month when humans became the monsters of space." The council leader spoke gently. "Take your time, Kethver. After Major Thompson captured our command ship, everything changed. The humans were no longer defending their territory. They were attacking ours." Kethver's mandibles barely moved as he spoke. The first strike came 2 weeks later. Our border station at Rigel 7 went silent. When we sent ships to investigate, we found something that still haunts my dreams. "What did you find?" asked a delegate. "The station was intact, but empty. Every Xanthari warrior was gone. Not dead, gone. Like they had simply vanished." The alien warrior paused, struggling to continue. "But they had left something behind. Human soldiers. They were waiting for us, wearing our own armor, using our own weapons. They had studied our captured comrades so carefully that they knew how to move like us, fight like us, even think like us. When our rescue ships arrived, these humans attacked using perfect Xanthari tactics." "How many humans were there?" the council leader asked. 50. 50 humans against 300 of our warriors. They should have been overwhelmed in minutes." Kethver's shell cracked further. "They won? They captured our rescue ships and everyone aboard them. Then they disappeared again, taking our ships and our people with them. Where did they go? We did not know." "They had learned to hide from our sensors. They could move through space without being detected. They had become invisible hunters." The alien warrior tried to stand but could not. The leader of these human hunters was Colonel Jim Hayes. He had been a Special Forces soldier before the war. After Amy Brooks died, he volunteered to lead what they called the Alien Hunter Program. "What was this program?" asked a delegate. "They had studied every piece of Xanthari technology they could find. They learned how our ships worked, how our weapons functioned, how our biology operated. Then they trained humans to hunt us specifically." Kethver's voice became even weaker. "Colonel Hayes and his team could move through space in ways that should have been impossible. They could survive in vacuum for hours. They could fight in zero gravity better than we could. They had modified their own bodies to become perfect killers of Xanthari." Modified their bodies? They had surgically implanted devices that let them breathe different atmospheres, see in different spectrums of light, hear sounds we could not detect. They had turned themselves into weapons designed specifically to kill us. The chamber filled with horrified murmurs. The idea that humans would modify their own bodies for war was deeply disturbing to most species. But the modifications were not the worst part, Kethver continued. The worst part was how they hunted. "Tell us," the council leader said. "They would study our patrol routes, our supply schedules, our communication patterns. They knew where every Xanthari ship would be before we did. They could predict our movements better than our own commanders. When they attacked, they did not try to destroy our ships. They captured them. They would board our vessels and take our crews prisoner. Then they would study us, learn more about us, use that knowledge to hunt the next ship." Kethver's compound eyes lost focus as he remembered. Colonel Hayes personally captured 12 Xanthari ships. Each time he learned something new. Each time he became more dangerous. "What happened to the captured crews?" asked a delegate. "They were not harmed. The humans kept them alive, studied them, learned from them. But they also used them to send messages back to our fleet." "What kind of messages?" Videos of our own warriors explaining how the humans had captured them. Recordings of our people describing human tactics, human weapons, human determination. The humans were using our own voices to spread fear through our ranks. The alien warrior's voice cracked completely. After 2 months of these attacks, our fleet was paralyzed with fear. We were afraid to patrol alone. We were afraid to follow our normal routes. We were afraid to communicate because we knew the humans were listening. Colonel Hayes had turned space itself into a hunting ground. Every asteroid could hide human ships. Every nebula could conceal human hunters. Every distress signal could be a trap. How did you try to stop them? The council leader asked. Our admiral gathered our entire remaining fleet, 200 ships. He decided to make one massive attack on human space, to end the war quickly before the hunters could destroy us completely. Kethver's shell began to shed pieces as he spoke. We thought our overwhelming numbers would save us. We were wrong. We were always wrong about humans. What happened during the attack? The humans were ready for us. They had been watching, learning, preparing. When our fleet entered their space, they did not try to fight us ship to ship. Instead, they used our own captured vessels against us. Ships that looked like ours with crews that spoke like us moved among our fleet. By the time we realized they were enemies, it was too late. The humans had also modified our captured weapons. They had made them more powerful, more accurate, more deadly. Our own technology was being used to destroy us. Kethver tried to continue but began coughing. His breathing labored. Colonel Hayes led the final assault personally. He boarded our flagship, the Eternal Conquest, with only 20 human soldiers. 20 soldiers against a crew of 5,000? Asked a delegate. Yes, and they won. The chamber fell completely silent. The idea that 20 humans could capture a ship with 5,000 alien warriors was beyond belief. How is that possible? They had studied our ship design so carefully that they knew every weakness. They could move through our vessels like they had built them themselves. They knew which systems to target, which corridors to avoid, which crew members to capture first. Colonel Hayes reached our admiral's bridge in 30 minutes. He did not kill our admiral. He captured him alive and forced him to surrender the entire fleet. Kethver's voice became barely audible. When our admiral asked why they had not just destroyed us, Colonel Hayes said something I will never forget. What did he say? He said, Amy Brooks asked us to make you pay. Dead enemies cannot learn fear. Live enemies can spread the word about. What happens when you attack humanity? The alien warrior looked around the chamber with his dying eyes. That was the end of our counterattack, the end of our fleet, the end of our war. The humans had not just defeated us. They had broken us completely. They had turned us from the galaxy's greatest warriors into frightened refugees in our own space. Tomorrow I will tell you about the peace negotiations, about how the humans showed us that they could be as merciful as they were terrible, about how they saved us from ourselves. As the delegates filed out, many of them were visibly shaken. The story of Colonel Hayes and his alien hunters had shown them that humans could become the most feared predators in the galaxy when they chose to. Kethver remained in the chamber, his body failing as his testimony neared its end. In his dreams tonight, he would see Colonel Hayes moving through Xanthari ships like a ghost. He would hear his admiral's voice surrendering their entire civilization to 20 human soldiers. The humans had kept their promise one final time. They had made the Xanthari pay the ultimate price for their aggression. And somehow they were still just getting started. The 6th day brought a strange quiet to the council chamber. Everyone knew this would be Kethver's final testimony. The Xanthari warrior entered the chamber supported by medical equipment. His shell was almost completely gone, held together only by bandages and metal braces. His compound eyes were now completely white, but somehow he could still see. Council leader, Kethver whispered through a voice amplifier, today I will tell you about the peace, about how humans taught us that mercy can be more terrifying than war. The council leader spoke softly. Tell us about the end of the war, Kethver. After Colonel Hayes captured our admiral, our entire fleet surrendered. We had no choice. The humans controlled our ships, our weapons, our communications. We were prisoners in our own vessels. Kethver's breathing was labored but steady. We expected to be executed. We expected our ships to be destroyed, our crews to be killed. We had done the same to other species we had conquered. We thought humans would do the same to us. But they did not? No. 3 days after our surrender, a human ship approached our flagship. It was small, unarmed, carrying only a few people. The humans called it a diplomatic vessel. The alien warrior paused, struggling with memories. The ship docked with our flagship, and 3 humans came aboard. No weapons, no armor, no guards. Just 3 humans walking onto a ship full of their enemies. Who were they? Asked a delegate. The leader was Secretary of State Helen Davis. With her were Dr. Martin Clark, a xenobiologist, and Lieutenant Commander Sarah Wilson, a translator who spoke perfect Xanthari. They came to negotiate? Yes, but not the way we expected. We thought they would demand our surrender, our territory, our resources. Instead, they asked us questions. Kethver's voice grew stronger as he continued. They wanted to know why we had attacked them. They wanted to understand our culture, our needs, our fears. They were trying to learn about us not as enemies, but as people. What did you tell them? At first, nothing. Our admiral refused to speak. Our officers remained silent. We thought it was a trick, another human tactic to make us reveal our weaknesses, but Secretary Davis was patient. She waited. She offered us food, medical care for our wounded. She treated us like guests instead of prisoners. The chamber filled with murmurs of surprise. The idea that humans would treat defeated enemies with kindness was unexpected. Dr. Clark examined our injured warriors, Kethver continued. He had studied Xanthari biology not to find ways to kill us, but to find ways to heal us. He saved dozens of our people who would have died from their wounds. And Lieutenant Commander Wilson spoke to us in our own language. Not just the words, but the proper forms, the correct honorifics, the cultural nuances. She had learned to speak like a true Xanthari. How long did the negotiations last? The council leader asked. 2 weeks. 2 weeks of humans treating us better than we had ever treated our own prisoners. They fed us, healed us, listened to us. They never threatened us, never demanded anything. Kethver's shell cracked again, but his voice grew clearer. On the 10th day, our admiral finally agreed to speak with Secretary Davis. She asked him one simple question. What question? She asked, what would it take for your people to live in peace with ours? Our admiral was confused. He said, you have defeated us. You can demand anything you want. Secretary Davis smiled and said, we do not want anything. From you, we want something for you. We want you to be safe, prosperous, and free. What would that take? The alien warrior's voice became emotional. Our admiral began to cry. In our culture, crying is a sign of deep shame. But he could not stop himself. No enemy had ever asked what we needed. No conqueror had ever cared about our well-being. What did your admiral say? He told her about our dying homeworld, about how our resources were running out, how our people were starving, about how we had started the war because we needed new planets to survive. And how did the humans respond? Dr. Clark immediately offered to help. He said human scientists could share their terraforming technology, their agricultural techniques, their medical knowledge. Everything we needed to save our homeworld without conquering other species. Kethver tried to sit up straighter. But Secretary Davis went further. She offered us something we had never expected. What did she offer? An alliance. She said humans and Xanthari could be partners instead of enemies. She said our warrior culture could be used to protect other species, instead of conquering them. She offered us a place in the galactic community as equals. What was the condition? Asked the delegate. That we never again attack peaceful species. That we use our strength to defend the weak instead of preying on them. That we help humans build a galaxy where all species could live safely. The chamber was completely silent. The idea that humans would offer alliance to a species that had tried to exterminate them was beyond most species' understanding. Our admiral accepted? The council leader asked. Yes, but he asked Secretary Davis why. Why offer peace to enemies who had tried to destroy them? Why help people who had killed so many humans? Kethver's voice cracked with emotion. She said, because Amy Brooks died believing that all species deserve to live in peace. Because Jake Morrison fought believing that understanding was better than hatred. Because every human who died in this war hoped their sacrifice would lead to a better galaxy, she said. We do not fight to destroy our enemies. We fight to turn our enemies into friends. The alien warrior looked around the chamber with his blind eyes. That was 6 months ago. Since then, Xanthari and human engineers have worked together to save our homeworld. Human doctors have cured diseases that have plagued our people for centuries. Human teachers have shown us new ways to use our strength, and we have kept our promise. Xanthari warriors now protect human colonies. We guard trade routes, defend peaceful species, fight alongside humans against pirates and raiders. What is your warning to the council? Asked the council leader. Never underestimate humans. Never assume they are weak because they are peaceful. Never think they are primitive because they are kind. Kethver's voice grew strong one final time. Humans do not just adapt to survive. They adapt to overcome. They do not just defend themselves. They defend others. They do not just fight to win. They fight to build something better. If you attack humans, they will defeat you. But if you befriend them, they will make you stronger than you ever imagined possible. They are not just another species. They are something new in the galaxy. Something that can turn enemies into allies, war into peace, hatred into hope. The humans are not just survivors, they are teachers. They are healers. They are builders of a better future. And they are just getting started. The alien warrior collapsed as he finished speaking, his testimony complete. Medical teams rushed to help him, but Kethver was smiling. He had delivered his warning and his message of hope. As the delegates filed out, they were quiet and thoughtful. Many species had feared humanity after hearing the early parts of Kethver's testimony. Now they understood that humans could be the galaxy's greatest threat or its greatest blessing. The choice was theirs to make. In the medical bay. As Kethver rested, he thought about his new life working alongside humans. In his dreams now, he did not see Amy Brooks dying or Jake Morrison fighting. He saw human and Xanthari children playing together on his healed homeworld. The humans had kept their final promise. They had not just won the war, they had won the peace. And they were building something beautiful from the ashes of conflict. They were just getting started. And the galaxy would never be the same.